The only thing I want to feel in my stomach is strapped from a bad bitch. Not a baby. I'm not having a child, and maybe neither should you. So there's been a lot of discourse lately surrounding baby mama culture. A lot of young women are having children before they have reached their full potential and making it worse by having a child with the worst man alive. But the one person you don't have to worry about contributing to that statistic is me. I'm not pushing anything out of this puss. So one of the things that I've come to realize as I have grown into my adulthood is that I don't want to have children. Now, I haven't always felt this way. When I was a child, I feel like everyone has always had this fantasy of being a parent at some point, having a mini-me, having my own babies, being pregnant, having my own little happy family. But as I've gotten older and really thought about my life and what I want and just essentially the type of person that I am, I've come to realize that I don't want to have children. Coming to the realization that I might not want to be a mother was very liberating. However, choosing to be child-free is a lifestyle that a lot of people can't really seem to comprehend. I remember one time I was on a date with someone and I told them that, you know what, I actually don't think I want to be a parent. And they were like, haha, oh my God, we gotta get you around more children, we gotta change that. Do men ever listen? But okay. I would even argue that people who choose to be child-free are probably the most responsible people out there. Because people who decide to be child-free, that's not a decision that you make lightly. There's actually so much thought that goes into deciding to be child-free. This is something that a lot of people sit on for months, maybe even years. It's not just a decision that people randomly make. However, being a parent doesn't really seem like a choice that a lot of you sit on for a while. Parenthood doesn't really seem like something any of you think about. You just have the child and hope for the best. Some of you don't even know why you're having children. Child-free people can give you a list of 20 reasons as to why parenthood probably isn't the path for them. But people who are choosing to have children, they can't even name 5 reasons outside of being selfish and having an extension of yourself. They cannot give you any reasons outside of that, because most of you are like, oh, well, I want to have a legacy. I want to have a mini-me. That's actually not normal. It's actually not normal to want your child to carry on a legacy that you yourself don't even have. You have no legacy. A lot of you don't even have a future, but somehow you want your child to continue whatever you have going on. Wanting to have a mini you is a cute idea. I think it's very cute when I see a parent who has a child and their child looks like them, or they're wearing matching outfits and they look similar. I think that is a very cute thing to experience. However, I don't think that should be the reason why you're having a child. You shouldn't have a child just so you can have something that's an extension of yourself. A lot of you don't think about children as real people. You just see them as these accessories, these things that you can just carry around, and they're just these dolls that you can essentially make do anything you want. You don't actually comprehend the fact that these are real people who are going to grow and have real interests and real personalities and might choose paths that you yourself probably weren't even thinking about. A lot of you are putting yourselves in these hypothetical situations of oh, I would never let my child do this. I would never let my child do this. And the thing in question is your child being gay. Oh, I would never let my child be gay. That's an actual, that's not something that you let your child do. That's just something that they are. You can't really decide things like that. A lot of you cannot conceptualize the fact that your child is not you. That's not, at some point your child is gonna grow up and they could go on a completely different path that you didn't fantasize about when you were 16. They are their own people and they're gonna do their own things and have their own life. And sometimes when you do tell people that you don't want to have children, one of the things that they tell you is, then who's gonna take care of you when you're old? That is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, because why are you having a child just so they can take care of you at some point? Who's going to take care of me? A nursing home? Now, there's nothing wrong with your children taking care of you, but having a child for the purpose of, oh yeah, when I'm old, I need someone to take care of me. And On top of that, you'll be a shitty parent expecting your child to take care of you at some point. Meanwhile, you're the worst person on earth. Like, a lot of you are actually going to look very desperate and sad in that nursing home when you realize that, my child is actually never coming back for me. Like, they're never planning on seeing me ever again. And you'll sit there wondering, I wonder why. Like, I wonder why my children is isolating themselves from me. I actually have a lot of reasons as to why that's happening, but just hear me out. And that goes back to what I said about how people are having children for selfish reasons. Like, you cannot think of having a child outside of you. Like, everything has to be somehow connected to yourself. Like, you can't think of a reason as to why you're having a child that doesn't somehow directly affect you. Now, this video isn't necessarily to discourage you from being a parent. It's more so just about pushing you to think a little, just a little bit more than you think you have. Children deserve so much more than what their parents give them, than what the world gives them. And that's the whole purpose of this video. Critically think about this, to really dissect this journey before you allow yourself to go into it, because there is a human being that's going to be involved, that is going to feel all of the effects of you. Some of you don't even want to try therapy, but you want to try parenthood. You're not even willing to dissect your generational trauma. But yes, give me a baby right now. The reason why a lot of us have generational trauma is because we come from people who should have never had children in the first place. And they also come from people who should have never had children in the first place. Being a parent is a lifetime commitment, or at least a commitment that you have to make for 18 years. It's not really something that you're just gonna figure out as you go. Of course, there's no perfect way of being a parent, and there's no like guide as to how to get through the whole process. Like, essentially some of it is just going with the flow, but for the most part, you do kind of have to have like a plan as to how you're going to navigate this new journey. A lot of you just have the child and just feel like, you know what, I have no money, I have no job, I have no other present parent, but let me just have the child anyways and just hope for the best. If you have no real plan for your life, why are you adding a child to that mix? You can barely take care of yourself. How are you going to be able to take care of somebody else? Also, I forgot to mention that who you choose to procreate with also plays a big factor into why some of you should not be having children. If you're in an unhealthy or toxic relationship, or if you're with someone you see no viable future with, why would it be a good idea to have a child with them? If they're not a good partner, why would they be a good parent? If they treat you like shit, what's stopping them from treating the child like shit too? And I'm not talking about the couples that didn't work out and they're now choosing to co-parent. I'm not talking about them. If your relationship is unhealthy, why would that suddenly change once you have a child together? You're using a human being as a tool to hopefully fix your relationship, and you're choosing to raise your child in an unhealthy household. Because once you have this child, this person, your partner, is going to be stuck in your life forever, regardless of whether or not you guys are together. And I'd even argue that who you choose to have a child with is just as big of a decision as keeping the child to begin with. So unless you're deciding to leave this person and raise the child on your own, please don't involve your child in your toxic dynamic. Children should be raised in community. I do believe that 100%, but some of you rely too much on the fact that, oh yeah, my parents will just like take care of the child like while I'm busy like studying in university. Like, no, that's not really what your parents are there for. Like, if I have a child, of course sometimes, my family and my friends would, look after my child if I really, need them to do so. However, the purpose of that community isn't so that they can do the parenting for me. Like, some of you just rely too much on the fact that like you have family, so it's fine, you can just have this baby even though you yourself have no real plan for your life, but it's okay, my grandma's gonna raise the baby. A lot of you are just having a child solely because you believe that's just the natural next step of your life. You're born, you go to school, you find your partner, you get married, you have a child, then you die. A lot of you are just going according to that life cycle. You've never even thought about what your life could be outside of that societal norm. You don't really think about the fact that actually my life doesn't have to be this way. You're having a child because you're like, well, I'm 25, I'm almost 30, so I should just, get to it. You can if you can have the abortion, you don't need to keep it. For a lot of women, I don't blame them for allowing their path to go that way, because that's something that's ingrained in our brains from a very young age. So you don't really know what else to do with your life apart from, having a child at some point. And you feel like maybe you're not adequate enough. If you don't have a child, if you don't pursue like motherhood, you might feel like your life is lacking, that it's less than. So I don't really blame women entirely. Just because of that doesn't suddenly mean that you're off the hook. You still need to think about it, but I'm not gonna drag you too much, okay? We're all figuring life out together. It's okay. If people actually thought about being a parent more, a lot of you would have not been born. They're literally just having children just to have them. People are more opposed to a child-free lifestyle than actually celebrating it. Because when you are choosing to be child-free, it's not just about you, right? Because some people want to have children, but they still choose to be child-free for a plethora of reasons. One of those being maybe because they're not at a point where they're ready to take care of a child. Not just emotionally, not just physically, but also financially. Because some of you feel like, oh, well, I love the child, so it's going to be okay. Your love is not going to put food on the table. Some people realize that they have a lot of emotional baggage or generational trauma that they have yet to unpack. And they know that if they probably have a child, they would project that onto the child because they haven't even unpacked it within themselves. Which I feel like that is such a selfless thing to do. Like you yourself, you know yourself so well to the point where you're like, you know what? I know that I'm not fully capable of being the best parent to this hypothetical child, so I'm just not going to do so. So many children suffer at the hands of people who just didn't think clearly before they became parents. Like a lot of people are suffering poverty, a lot of children are suffering abuse because of a parent who didn't think clearly before they had them. Because some of you will grow up to resent these children because you know deep down that you never really wanted one. You know deep down that you were never really ready for one, but you had one anyways. And then eventually you're going to grow up to hate this child. And then that child is going to grow up to hate themselves. Then they might even have children and hate them. And then the cycle continues. And sometimes being child-free is simply because the world is just at the worst state right now. Like, thinking about the political and economic state of the world right now, like this is not an environment for children. Like they should not be suffering the way that we are. Like, and another reason of being child-free can simply be because you don't fucking want to. Choosing to be child-free is something that a lot of people just cannot seem to comprehend. Like it's always just this big discussion. Like it's people just are not simply satisfied with, no, I just don't want them. Like people want to know like the depths of your soul. Some of you will be attacking child-free people and you're like fucking miserable. Like you're literally fucking miserable every single day, and you're yelling at us for being child-free because you want us to suffer with you. Like I kind of enjoy my life the way it is. I feel like it would be worse if I had a child, and you have proven that example to be true. Why do I specifically not want to have children? There's a whole list of reasons, but the first one being simply because I just don't feel that connected to children. Like I just don't have this like maternal feeling whenever I look at children. Like for me, children are just people. Of course, children are very cute, they're very smart, they're curious, they're very talented, but I don't feel this like earth-shattering connection where I'm like, I want this one day. For me, it's just, oh, there's that child over there. Even when like speaking with children, like children are cute, but like after 5 minutes, I kind of just want to do something else. I want to move on. Having a conversation with a child for like long periods, like I just don't know what to say. Like it's so like awkward. Like after 5 minutes of like a cutesy, like, oh, what's your name? What do you do? Oh, how was your day? How are you? Like after those like simple cutesy small talks, like I just don't really know what to say. And I kind of want to remove myself from the situation. And it's not because I am not exposed to a lot of children or because I don't spend a lot of time with children. I've been around children many, many times. And another reason is because I'm very specific about what I wants. Like, it's either a girl or an abortion. Like, there's no in between. Like, generally, I don't want to have children, but if I were to consider it, the main reason would be, okay, but it's going to be a girl, so maybe. But if it's a boy, like, it's definitely not happening. And thing is, that's not how parenthood works. Like, if you're desiring to be a parent, you should be happy with the outcome regardless. You're kind of just supposed to be very open to the process and like whoever your child ends up being. And meanwhile, I'm not like that. I know that if I had a child, they would have to be a girl. They would have to have a personality that I like. This isn't really specific to children, but just like people in general. Like, there's certain personalities that I just don't really like, and I feel like if my child ended up having them, like, what would I do? You're just supposed to be happy with your child, period. But personally, for me, I'm not like that. Like, I know that I would want to have a girl only. And even when having a girl, I want to have them to satisfy my own selfish needs. For example, there are certain things that I felt like I lacked throughout my childhood, and I want to give that to my child. Now, on a surface level, that sounds cute. Like, oh, like you want to give your child things that you never had. But that's not their purpose. And I don't just mean in a financial way. I mean even like emotionally, physically, you want to give your child things that you needed. That doesn't always mean that your child is going to be receptive to those things. An abortion would be the immediate option. Like, it's an abortion before actually thinking about like having it. Like, if I got pregnant, like my first thought wouldn't be, oh, like, do I want to have a child? I would just think, okay, let's go straight to the abortion clinic. I would go to the abortion clinic the same day I take the test. Like, I'm not even gonna sit on the fantasy for a little bit. Like, I'm going straight to the clinic and I'm getting it out.